Chapter 21. Leaving the populated area behind us, we enter the desert and go toward the cliffs. The heat makes me drowsy, but the thirst brought on by the salted fish is so strong it's keeping me awake. We've been in the desert about half an hour when we approach a brick-walled village. On the lintel over the gate it says Workmen's Village. I've been to such a place before. Masons and artisans live here with their families. They work for the royal house on the royal tombs and the tombs of high-ranking officials. As we go through the gate, a group of men cheer the donkey man, and he in turn waves to them. A short, stocky man leaves the group and walks towards us. "Good afternoon, Tashi," he says, giving the donkey man a slap on the shoulder. "What do you have for us this week?" "Good afternoon to you, Kush. I've brought dry fish, lentils, beans, and beer." "Beer? Bless you! Last week you didn't bring any. The workers were upset, and the guards of the royal tomb were furious. When I bring them their food and there's no beer, they threaten me with their staves." "I'm sorry," Tashi says, "but it wasn't my fault." "I know," Kush says, giving him another slap on the shoulder. "It's the royal house that's to blame. But let's be grateful that this week we'll all have our beer. Tutu, my son," he calls out to a younger man, "go and get your brother and unload the donkeys." Tutu is short and stocky like his father. He disappears inside a house, only to reappear within a few seconds with his brother at his side. Tashi leads his caravan closer to the house, and the brothers begin to unload the donkeys, singing happily, probably anticipating a bowl of beer when they finish the job. They get to my donkey and pick up the basket I'm hiding in. "Tashi," says Tutu, or his brother, I'm not sure which, "what do you have in here? Stones?" "Just dried fish. Here, I'll show you." The cover of the basket is lifted, and I'm looking up at Tashi. "You must be the gray cat the guards were after." I've seen how kindly he treats his donkeys. I know he won't hurt me, but recoil instinctively. "Don't be afraid," he reassures me. In the meantime, Kush and the two brothers have joined him. Now I have 4 pairs of eyes staring at me. I'm preparing to leap out of the basket and run off, but Kush, anticipating my move, reaches in, grabs me by the scruff of the neck, and pulls me out. "A nice roasted cat will complement the beer," he says. He caresses his belly and laughs. I know he's only joking, but it's a while before my heartbeat returns to normal. Kush hoists me onto his free arm and lets go of my neck, holding me like a baby, then looks into the basket and rummages inside with his free hand. He seemed to be searching for something in particular. "Ah, I knew he'd have tried to eat one." He pulls out the fish I've bitten into and dangles it in front of me. "You must be dying of thirst, you silly beast." I try to meow, but my throat is so dry I can manage only a pathetic bleat. Everyone laughs. "Let's go inside and have a bowl of beer," Kush says. "Good idea," the others say in unison. We enter the house, which is really a large storeroom. Ah, I see. Kush oversees the food supply for the village. "Sit," he says to Tashi, pointing to the benches made of mud bricks. "Give your tired bones a rest." Tashi sits. So do the brothers. "What do you think you're doing?" Kush says to them. "Don't you have work to do? You'll get your beer later like everybody else." But, complain his sons. "No buts." They get up and, looking downcast, go back outside. Kush hands me to Tashi, who sets me on his lap. "They're good sons," Kush says, "but they like their beer too much." From one of the jars Tashi's donkeys carried, he pours beer into 2 large bowls. Like father, like sons? He hands Tashi a bowl, but doesn't join him on the bench. "I'll be back," he says, putting his bowl down. He walks around the storeroom, searching. He comes back holding a smaller bowl, sits beside Tashi, and puts it on the bench. He takes me by the scruff of the neck and sets me down on the bench, then picks up his bowl and pours beer in the smaller one. "Well, aren't you thirsty?" he asks when I hesitate. I start to lap up the beer. I've forgotten the peculiar taste of Egyptian beer, slightly sour and bitter. I finish and look at the 2 men. They're wiping their mouths with the backs of their hands. "That was very refreshing, Kush," says Tashi. "How about some more?" "Don't mind if I do." Tashi tries to hand Kush his bowl. "No need," Kush says, getting up. "I'll bring the jar over." When he finishes pouring more beer in their 2 bowls, I meow and he pours more in mine. As I'm lapping it up, I feel a pang of guilt. Is the high priest thirsty? I try to make myself believe he isn't and resume lapping till my bowl is empty. 3 more times, Kush refills his bowl, Tashi's and mine. At least, I think it's 3 times. After my 3rd bowl of beer, I'm convinced the high priest isn't thirsty. After the 4th, I'll bet my life on it. Kush has moved closer to Tashi, as if to tell him a secret. My ears prick up, about the only part of me that can move. I have something strange to tell you, Kush says quietly. I'm listening, Tashi says. The men working on the royal tomb tell me that just before they quit for the day, a woman arrives. She's dressed like a peasant, but the guards let her enter. When the workers return to the tomb at dawn, they see her leave. Do they know who the woman is or why she goes into the tomb? No. Could they ask the guards? They were afraid they'd be accused of spying. I see, Tashi says, nodding. It's strange about the woman. Very. Yes, Tashi says, nodding some more. His nodding is making me dizzy. I look away, afraid I might spill my guts all over the place. What would my drinking buddies think of me then? The men fall silent, pondering the mystery. I should go home, Tashi says, getting up. Kush also gets up, but is too wobbly to stand and sits back down. Steady, steady, says Tashi, putting his hand on his friend's shoulder. No need to get up for me. Goodbye. May the Aten look after you, and may your beer jars never be empty. He looks down at me. And you, stay out of harm's way. Tashi pulls the door closed behind him. Goodbye, Kush manages to say, just before closing his eyes and slumping forward. Here I am, alone with a drunk. And my curiosity. Who is the peasant woman Kush mentioned to Tashi, and what does she do in the royal tomb? The only way to find out is to be there myself when she is. But how do I get there? I hatch what's surely a drunken plan. Were I sober, I'd never jump off the bench, get up on my hind legs, somewhat unsteadily, and shout in Kush's ear, Are you asleep? No, he says, stirring. Tashi, you're back? It's not Tashi. It's Rapahamen. Kush opens his eyes and, seeing me standing in front of him, sits bolt upright, before sliding off the bench onto the floor. His back against the bench, he shakes his head again and again in disbelief. Haven't you heard a cat talk before? I ask. You can't fool me, Kush replies. Whenever I'm very drunk, a donkey talks to me. He's an hallucination. So are you. I wasn't an hallucination when you poured beer for me. No, but you weren't talking then. I walk around on my hind legs. Can a donkey do that? No, he just talks. I bet I know what he tells you. You cheat the workers out of their beer. How do you know? When I do something wrong, I hear Elena's voice inside my head. In fact, I hear it now. Rapahamen, you should be ashamed. In ancient Egypt on a vital mission and you get drunk. Amazing how a cat might time travel through millennia, but not escape his conscience. Kush's talking donkey appears to him whenever he gets drunk on beer that should have gone to his workers. But if I told him, he wouldn't understand. I know many things, I say instead. That's what the donkey says. What will convince you I'm not an hallucination? Do something real. All right, then. Get up and with your back to the bench. It takes him a while, but he obeys. What are you going to do? You'll see. Standing on the bench on my hind legs, I swing one leg back as far as it'll go. I'm just at the right height, and with all my strength, bring it forward to connect with his fat ass. For a drunken man, Kush yells loudly, You're not an hallucination. He turns to me and gets down on his knees. But you're not a real cat either. A cat can't walk and talk like a human. Or kick so hard, oh, you're a god. How I wish Elena and the high priest could hear him. Yes, and you'll get another kick if you don't obey me. I'll do anything you tell me. Anything, divine creature. As much as I enjoy being addressed that way, I prefer my name. Call me Rapahamen. Yes, divine creature. Rapahamen. I heard you tell Tashi about the woman at the royal tomb. I want you to take me there now. Oh, divine creature. Rapahamen. The royal tomb is guarded. You're asking me to spy. The guards are only human. This is a divine matter. You have nothing to fear, I assure you. Kush seems none too convinced, but he's in awe of me. All right, Rapahamen. I'll do it. That said, he flops down on the bench and begins to snore. I shake him, I yell at him, but he's dead to the world. I just have to wait. But sleep is contagious, and Kush's snoring is hypnotic. When I wake up, the light seeping through the reed mat covering the window is dimmer. At least 2 hours have gone by, and Kush is still asleep. Wake up! I yell right in his ear. What the? He says, coming out of his stupor. You useless drunk. I can see he's struggling to remember. All right, Rapahamen, he says after several seconds. I'll go to the stable and fetch a donkey. Wait for me here. He's almost through the door when he walks over to the jars of beer. Picking one up, he says, We'll need this. Am I ever going to see him again? 5 minutes later, he puts his head through the door and tells me to come outside. I go on my fours. I don't want anyone else to know I'm a divine cat. Out in the courtyard is a donkey with a basket containing the jar of beer tied to his sunken back. He's the saddest specimen of a donkey I've ever seen. He looks as if he's sleeping, and his head hangs down so low it's almost touching the ground. And what's that noise? Snores? Worse? Is this the best you could do? I ask. I'm afraid so, Kush says. Tashi has taken the strongest donkeys. The others that are left are even worse than this one. I'd hate to see the others. How long will it take to get to the royal tomb? It depends on Moot's mood, Kush says, pointing to the donkey. Pick me up, I order, and put me on Moot. Kush lifts me and sets me down in front of the basket with the jar of beer. Moot brays. Is he saying I'm too fat? Kush tries to plant himself behind the basket, and I feel Moot's back sink even lower. Have you no pity for the poor animal? Get off immediately! Sighing, Kush gets down and tugs at the rope tied around Moot's neck until the donkey begins to move. After a few steps, Moot makes a sound my nose tells me isn't from his mouth. When the village gatekeeper sees us approach, he starts to laugh. Kush, have you mistaken your cat for your wife? Shut up! I'll kill him, Kush whispers under his breath. As we pass through the gatekeeper puts a hand over his mouth to stifle more laughter. When a stifled laugh is finally emitted, it's exceptionally loud. And after the gatekeeper closes the gate behind us, the volume of his laughter makes Moot's sensitive ears twitch. He makes another noise, and this one doesn't come from his mouth either. Looking north, I see big houses in the distance and ask Kush about them. Those are the houses of courtiers and rich merchants, he says. I'm new to the city. I've seen the quay in the southern part. I thought that was a rich area. Well, yes, it is. But the fat cats, the courtiers and rich merchants live in the northern suburbs as well as in the south. As we proceed, the hills in front of us start to turn pink, and our shadows stretch longer and longer over the desert sand. Looking over my shoulder, I see the sun has begun its descent. I shared hundreds of Egyptian sunsets with my beloved pharaoh. How will I ever tear myself away from Egypt again? You haven't spoken for a while, Kush says. What are you thinking? How could I possibly tell him? If you must know, I've been thinking how lucky you are to live in Egypt. Why don't you live here? Let's say my heart lives here, my body somewhere else. But I see your body. It is here. Forget I said anything. I can't. You're a divine being. Whatever you say is unforgettable. If you don't forget it, I'll give you another demonstration of my powers. And I promise you'll feel this one even more. I can't even remember what I'm supposed to forget. Good. Except for the donkey's occasional braying, there's silence for a while. Kush is the one who breaks it. Do you see that gap in the cliffs? He says, pointing to a dry riverbed. That's the Royal Wadi. It leads up to the royal tomb. As we move closer, I see 2 guards patrolling the entrance to the royal wadi. One is tall, the other short. When we reach the entrance, they signal us to stop. "Kush," the tall one asks, "isn't it late for you to be coming here?" "The supplies were delivered late," Kush replies, "but at least there'll be beer this week. I'm bringing a jar to the guards at the royal tomb." "What about us?" the short guard asks. "Not all the beer has been delivered yet. More is coming tomorrow. I was told that the guards at the tomb were to get their beer first." "Is that so?" the tall guard says. "Don't you think we should have a taste, just to make sure it's fresh?" "Be my guest." Kush takes the jar of beer from the basket on Moot's back and offers it to the guards. The tall one takes it, opens it, and drinks, spilling some of the beer on the sand. Then he hands the jar to the short guard, who takes his drink and says, "Ah, that's good beer. Too good for the guards at the tomb." "You don't mean you're going to keep it?" asks Kush, alarmed. "Go on," the short guard says, winking at Kush. "Take it. It's not that good." Kush takes the jar of beer back and puts it in the basket. Moot farts again, and, holding their noses, the guards retreat a few steps. "Was that your donkey?" the short one asks. "No, the cat," Kush replies. "Do us a favor," the tall one says. "Next time you come around, don't bring the cat." Before I know what's happening, he walks over to me and whacks me on the head with his baton. "On your way," he orders, and Kush resumes walking, pulling on the rope so Moot will follow. "Why did you say I farted?" I say, when we're out of earshot of the guards, as if a cat's fart sounded like a blasting trumpet and smelled like a rotten carcass. "Didn't you tell me your body was somewhere else?" Kush says with a smirk. "Why would it matter to you that you got whacked?" It seems Kush is a better philosopher than I am. "How much longer to the royal tomb?" I ask him, changing the subject. "With a good donkey? A good hour," he says. "With Moot? Who knows?" The scenery is boring. I'm still groggy from the beer, and I'm being swayed back and forth. Drifting off, I feel myself sliding down Moot's back and dig my claws in his fur. And that's the last thing I do before leaving my fate in the hands of Kush and to the legs of Moot.